Wappa. Welcome. Today we are doing a very special, very quick stream on French toasts. Recipe in the description. Here we have the beginnings of our very simple syrup. Technically, simple syrup is 1 part water, 1 part sugar. Here it's 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, and the only reason I even have the water in here is to make caramelizing the sugar a lot easier and a lot safer. The water has to come to temperature first. Once the sugar and water are thoroughly mixed, the whole mixture has to come to 212 Fahrenheit before the water cooks off, boils off, if you will. Where's my paper towels? Yoink. There they are. Before the water starts to boil off, which gives us plenty of time, and we won't have any hot spots in the sugar. So the caramel itself won't burn on us, not anywhere near as easily. So the caramel syrup is just sugar, water, and a splash of extract, and a 1/4 cup. This is 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm going to put 1/4 cup of butter in there. And today's bread, cranberry and oats. Cranberry and oats. Like those 80s rockers, cran and oats. The French toast itself is normally baked at 400 Fahrenheit, so I'm going to preheat my oven now. After I double check that there's nothing in there, okay, bake 400. I think I'm going to need to do some Tetrising here. Yes, Tetris. Okay. That's going to go there. I'm going to start the syrup over a how.
Okay, there.
Yes.
You might want to take that one lonely piece of bread out of the fridge and use that.
Okay. Apparently there's a lonely piece of bread in the refrigerator. See, these slices are about the same thickness. And this is, I think, a touch thicker than our usual Wonder Bread style bread. And you really should never buy that stuff. I think this is going to be good. Yoink, and yoink. While that's happening, I'm going to get my batter started. Squeak. Recipes, as always, in the description. We need... I'll move the camera back, promise. Let's just start this. Normally, the recipe calls for a cup of milk. I'm going to pretend that's a cup of milk. It's actually 10% cream, so I'm going to use a little less. I could always thin this out with water if I wanted. Always crack your eggs into a separate bowl first, just in case you drop some eggshells or in case your eggs aren't as clear and yellow as you want. Oh, eggshell. Perfect. I mean, oh darn. Time to freak out. Here we have a piece of eggshell hiding right underneath the yolk. I don't know if you can even see that. Yeah, you can see it's right there, right below my finger. I'm going to use my eggshell scooper picker-upper and either get right underneath and tilt up, or I can just nudge the eggshell up the side of the bowl and then drop it. Just pick it up like so with the eggshell cup. The edge of the eggshell tends to cut right through the egg white, and I'll do this one more time. If you can get underneath, all you need to do is just tilt your cup up and lift. If that doesn't work, then you can nudge the eggshell up the side of your bowl. And crisis averted. Okay, so that's all done. I'm going to pre-measure my vanilla extract. For the very buttery, very caramelly syrup, I'm going to have to put mixing the batter on hold for just a minute because this is almost ready. The water is starting to boil. We're on high temperature here. And as soon as the caramel starts to form, once the sugar starts turning like a medium brown, kind of that color, I'm just going to whisk in the butter. I'm going to remove it from heat, whisk in the butter and the vanilla extract, and that's it. You could put a pinch of salt in here. Just make sure this is fully mixed. And from here, we don't need to touch anything. This is going to take 3 or 4 minutes, typically. Your mileage may vary. In my mixing bowl, I'm just throwing in the rest of the ingredients. Again, recipe in the description. This is all very basic, and you can adjust as you want. If you want more spiciness, you can add more cinnamon, you can add some nutmeg, you can add some allspice. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on your water, because this will go from clear to lightly brown to flaming black burnt pretty quickly. So just a little bit of color is forming. I'm not going to ignore it, but I am looking for my allspice. Nutmeg also works. You can also throw in some ground ginger. Yeah, I know. We should have a jar cup with allspice on it. I am keeping an eye on the caramel. Might not look like it, but I totally am. Sure, I'm just going to throw in a splash of clove and nutmeg since I can't find the allspice. It's all the same stuff. Now, I don't want the syrup to become super thick. I don't want actual caramel to form like a really thick caramel. So once I start seeing some color, while it's still a little wet, I'm hoping that I can whisk the butter in quickly enough and that the butter the water in the butter turns to steam or separates quickly enough that the fat from the butter and the sugar and the water globules will make friends. Kind of like mayonnaise. I've been meaning to test that with an immersion blender or an immersion like a stick blender, but I don't know that I want to dunk it into sugar. It might gunk up the motor. It shouldn't, but I'm a little concerned. What's that saying? A watched pot never boils? Well, it's boiling now. And I will hydrate. This light's a little closer to the camera. Always be careful when you're playing with caramel. Sugar gets very, very, very hot. Doesn't matter that it looks like it's a liquid and you think it's, not even as hot as boiling water. It is. It is. The stuff gets very hot. And it doesn't matter how tasty your caramel looks. Make darn sure that it's cooled down a bit before you taste it, because it's very easy to burn your tongue. Yeah, I was wondering if I could make something more resembling this is going to sound gross, but a caramel mayo, where I could have the fat from the butter encapsulate little droplets of the water that's escaping from the butter, and have the sugar caramel syrup mix in. Because if such a thing could exist, that would be wonderful. Imagine something that spreads like mayo, but it's caramel. And they said there's no room for innovation. Bah! I'll just quickly show you what's in the bowl. I'm going to slide the camera back. Here's the mixing bowl. We have our, well, in my case, cream but milk, eggs, bit of vanilla extract, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, some allspice and cinnamon. I'm just going to whisk that up, and I'm going to dunk my still moist bread. And again, I normally use stale French bread, so it's very dry and it soaks up a lot more of this wonderful batter. But today, we're going to heathen it up. We're starting to get some color. See, we weren't looking, and we started getting color forming. Okay. So this is turning a very, very, very light honey brown. Oh, it's almost perfect timing. The oven is preheating. Oh my gosh, my stand is dang near melting from the heat. Okay. Caramel is coming up to temperature. I'm going to just slide this over here. I hope that this balances, because if it doesn't, it's going to be disastrous. Okay, so I need to very quickly add my butter. And the steam from the water escaping from the butter is going to make this froth up. Probably could have used a longer whisk, but I wanted to use my high temperature silicone whisk. And you can see what this is starting to look like. Oh, very, very, very thick caramel syrup. Now, normally when I make a caramel syrup, I will add a splash of milk or cream to this, but today I'm just sticking with sugar and butter. This will need to stay warm, but right now, this is heaven. This is liquid awesomeness. Yeah, this is a perfect temperature. This is a perfect color. It doesn't get any better than this. I'm going to leave this on low heat on another element. And over here, Woo! Glowing purple hot. Yikes. Purple's not a real color, right? Okay. I'm going to preheat my steel pan first, and then I'm going to add butter to it. So in the meantime, I'm just going to very quickly whisk up my batter. One interesting bit of trivia about cinnamon is its tree bark, inner bark, and it doesn't really dissolve well in water. So I'm going to have some cinnamon floating on top, which is fine. You might want to refresh how much cinnamon you have in here. So when you dunk your bread in, the first couple of slices will very likely pick up a bunch of the cinnamon. Just add more. Okay, stainless steel pan. And once the stainless steel pan gets a little warm, we're down to medium heat. And no, Therina, I'm not going to put my palm on it to see if it's hot. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 4 or more times, shame on me. And one of the tricks to using stainless steel pans is heat it up first before you add your butter or oil, whatever cooking lubricant you want to use. You can always test if it's ready. If the water vaporizes right away, it's not the right temperature. We want little droplets of water to be bouncing across the surface. We're almost there. Now we're there. The water started rolling around. That's the leading frost effect. We do very quickly dunk our bread in here. One slice of very, very boring white bread. One slice of super fun, what did I say that was, cranberry oat. I'm going to cook these for about 2 minutes aside. And I'm going to put them on sheet pan. Normally, I would insist on covering in parchment paper. Today, we're raw dogging it. If I was just making a portion for one, I could take this pan after I flip it and just pop that in the oven to finish the French toast. But since I'm making 6 or 7 pieces, I'm going to finish it off on the old sheet pan. Being able to go from the stovetop into the oven with stainless steel or cast iron is a fantastic reason to use stainless steel or cast iron. You normally can't do that with nonstick pans because of the plastic or nylon handles. Don't put those in the oven at a real temperature. By real, I mean more than 120 Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's been about 2 minutes. These are very, very soggy and very squishy. Ugh. Now, it's a good thing that we lubricated and preheated these pans, otherwise they would stick. And I'm actually concerned right now that these might stick. Shovelize. Yes, it is soggy toast. And this is why I like to use stale, i.e. dry, French bread. I soak it in the batter, and then I just pan fry a few minutes aside just to get some color, just to dry it off a bit. And then that goes onto the sheet pan, and I finish baking the French toast at about 400. They also puff up, and the outside gets nice and crispy. But they need to be served immediately, because if you leave them alone for more than 5 or 10 minutes, they start to deflate and the crispiness goes away because the moisture inside the French toast works its way to the surface. And I will be wiping down the pan between batches. So what I recommend is you grab your paper towel, you wet it, and you use some sort of a tong-like implement. I'm just going to use my hand, but to be safe, do something like this. I'll wad it up first, get this very wet, and just scrub a scrub, and you will get rid of anything that's stuck in the bottom of your pan here. These should be good. Just show you what the back looks like. Okay. I know it's already at a good temperature. There's just a little bit of debris in there. It's good enough. If you really want that nutty brown butter flavor, you can, well, let it cook for a minute. The nice thing about using a metal pan that you can bring up to a high temperature is a lot of food that starts off seemingly stuck will release once it's cooked. And this is especially true with steaks. So don't try to slide your steak around your pan right away, because it'll stick and you'll get an undesired effect. But once it cooks for a few minutes, that steak will release from the bottom of the pan, if the pan was clean to begin with. You made bruschetta orzo for dinner with inexcusable amounts of fresh garlic? So you mean not enough garlic? And frozen green peas. Sounds oddly healthy. The caramel is still liquid. I can feel a little bit of grit forming in the back. That's fine. The element is on low. It'll be fine. If you want to save your caramel syrup for later, I would recommend stirring in some milk or cream and transferring it to a squeeze bottle and leaving it in your refrigerator. And then you can reheat it either in the microwave if you own one. My microwave is a little too small for my squeeze bottles, and this chicken is still cooking. I don't know how long it'll take. But having just a plastic squeeze bottle, you can also reheat the contents by taking out a tall glass, filling it with very hot water, and just putting your bottle in there. Oh, I let that one go a few minutes too late. Very toasty. The dish is at least 5 to 8% garlic. that sounds like a good percentage. A little low, but pretty good. So when I said about 2 minutes, I wasn't kidding, and I should have been timing it, which means that I'm having these slightly burnt pieces because I would never serve this to my guests. That was for me. That was for me. Going to, again, wet paper towel, wipe that down. Don't do this by hand. The steam that's being released is very hot. Very easy to burn yourself doing this. Okay, I'm going to put in 1 pat of butter. I'll time this one 2 minutes aside. And the final 2 pieces I'm going to cook in the pan as it is, the way everyone else does it, which is a nice way of saying the wrong way. And full disclosure, I'm just running out of batter here. These last 2 pieces of bread soaked up the vast majority of what was left. Personally, I think I need a touch more batter, but whatever. This is going to be good. It's easy to have your pans and pots get a little too hot. Constantly check your temperatures. Having an instant read infrared laser thermometer is always a good idea. Check the bottoms. Like this pan, even though the stovetop is at medium, this pan is a heck of a lot hotter now than it was when I did my first batch. The way to avoid this is to do the water drop test to make sure that the pan is at the right temperature. Okay, so this will be mine. That goes there. I'm going to clean off my pan. I'm actually going to lower the temperature just a bit. But one really nice thing about using good quality and clean stainless steel pans, they stay clean. Now, anyone that is very observant will have noticed that there was a spot that had some stuck batter on the side over here. That's pretty dang spotless. Okay, so these slices are going into the oven for no more than 10 minutes. The fact that the butter is turning brown so quickly is a good indication that the pan is a little too hot. It just takes a little bit of effort to keep your stainless steel and cast iron cookware clean, in good condition, and if you do, it'll last a generation. If not more than a generation. What I am going to do, though, Let's get a cutting board so I can slice these in half. So these I'm going to cut in half because there's a cranberry oat slice and a very boring white slice in here. So I can serve this beside the stuff that's in the oven. And once these are done, that's it. Super quick stream. Renegade Zero, thanks for the follow. If anyone has any requests for a flavor profile or regional cuisine, any ethnic cuisine, either the ingredients or the techniques or just the way the herbs and spices work, feel free to ask on the Discord. That's where all the cool kids hang out. So soggy, so bread. The Discord has 3 main sections, one for cooking, cleaning, laundry, no wait, for cooking, music, and artwork. So there's my stuff, your stuff, and feel free, please share pictures and stories and videos. And then the Ask Me for requests, or I can do a deep dive into the gastro science. I have a very strong background in the hard sciences, and I can get very technical with what's happening over here. But in general, nobody cares. Time to hydrate once again. So here's an interesting question, and it's a serious question. Do you like your do you want your French toast to be cooked all the way through, so you have basically an egg custard cooked into some bread, or do you want it a little moist? Take a quick peek in the oven. Okay, so the oven is well toasted. That's beautiful. Okay, so we have, and yes, that was nowhere near 10 minutes. The bread itself, you know what, I'm going to flip these over though. Normally when I make French toast, I use much thicker slices, and I have a lot more liquid hanging out inside. Yeah, the tops look much more well done. The bottoms need a few more minutes, so I'm going to put these in for the full 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Let my people go. These are very moist still. 5-minute timer. Well, there's something that comes to mind is whenever you have different varieties of the same food, they might have different enzymes that don't play well with each other. So you might have a bad reaction happening on your tongue. Now, if you mean not play nice, is it flavor-wise? Is there a reaction, or is one just insanely hot? Almost every time a pairing is weird, it's usually because of a chemical reaction, or because of, well, it's always going to be because of a chemical reaction. There's either a physical chemical reaction like baking soda and vinegar, or there's something a little under the hood with enzymes going on. Well, think of wine pairing. Some foods pair amazingly well with some types of wine, and they taste like garbage when paired with other types of wine. And that's almost always because of the enzymes involved. Because sometimes some flavors, some foods play well with other foods, and sometimes it's pure garbage. Your mileage may vary. Okay. We get down to the cutting board. I don't think these need any more butter. I mean, I know it's blasphemy, right? Of course it needs more butter. But right now, I think we're good. My stove is all off. My caramel syrup is still warm. So take a quick peek. Whenever you have something in the oven, make sure you're leaning way, way, way away, just so you don't get a face full of steam or something else. Yeah, that's good enough. Now, is there a point in baking these? We're going to find out. We're going to find out right away. That's mine. Where is the other good one? There it is. Wait. It's hard to tell these breads apart. Yoink. Okay. Let's plate this up. We're going to make this all sorts of nice and pretty, and we'll do the taste test. Here is the homemade caramel, very buttery, very caramelly syrup that I'm going to just pour over here. It's another reason why I don't need to put any butter on top of the French toast, because this syrup has all sorts of butter in it. By volume, it's half butter. Let's go feed the studio audience. I will be right back. I'll take a picture first. Thanks. Okay, taste test. Now, if you ever plan to be in the greater metropolitan Winnipeg region and want to be a member of the studio audience, the green room, the casting couch, you can hang out and meet the infamous DJ Nuvo in person. I love caramel. Guest cook with or without me in the kitchen. All you need to do is send a self-addressed stamped envelope to this guy, care of this place, and I will hook you up. Okay.
The syrup's really good.
The syrup's really good.
Not enough of it.
What do you mean not enough of it? That's really hot. My camera is weird when it comes to dark browns. It'll show like a light honey brown to a medium brown, and anything a few shades darker starts looking like it's more burnt than it actually is. You know, I don't know where people are getting their information. I was chatting with some friends from a game online earlier, and to hear them tell the story, it sounds like everyone in Canada has pulled US products off the shelves and thrown it into the river, like Boston Tea Party style. It's Thursday today. It's the same as last week, Thursday. It's the same as it's going to be next week, Thursday. As long as you're not a wanted criminal in Canada, I don't think there's a problem with you crossing the border. I think this is another example of the media being very eager to get some hate clicks and stir up drama where, I mean, it's not an ideal situation. I'm not trying to completely sugarcoat it. But my understanding is it's nowhere near as bad. Nowhere near as bad as the media is making it out to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the syrup's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I need to say about that. I'll try a piece without any syrup. And this is the cranberry oat. Compared to my normal French toast, this is pure garbage. This, without the syrup, I would be looking at throwing it out. I mean, it's fine. I'm being a little hyperbolic. I mean, I want to tear off the shit out of this right now. See what I did there? That's hilarious. That's comedic gold. I think I'm allowed one S-bomb on YouTube. Now, this is the way most people make their French toast. They take eggs, maybe some milk, they whip it up, they dunk their bread in it, they pan fry it. And there's a reason why it's not very inspired. The way that I normally do it, and the real recipe is on the blog. The French toast by itself is good. It doesn't even need syrup. And of course, I usually make a few types of toppings to go with it. So I'm going to grab this piece that was pan fried. Oh yeah, that part that I tasted without syrup, that was done in the oven. That should have been the best of the bunch. Mm-hmm. And it was. It is. When you first start playing around with caramel and caramelizing sugar in general, don't let yourself get distracted. Watch your pot like a hawk. Use a bigger pot than you think you need, because when you add liquid to it, any water in that liquid or any substance that you add to molten sugar, all the water contained therein will turn to steam very quickly. It will foam up, and it's easy for that foam to overflow and burn you. It's really, really hot. And just like throwing ice cubes into a pot of boiling oil, again, I don't recommend it. You can have a similarly dramatic effect when you throw liquid into, like water, especially directly into melted sugar. You know, for basically 2 ingredients, this syrup's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good. When you have a bit of practice caramelizing, well, sugar, you won't need to mix your sugar and water first. I still recommend you do it, especially if there's any chance you're going to be distracted. I like to think I know what I'm doing, and I still get distracted in the kitchen. I blame the chat because you guys are all awesome. Full Metal Jersey, yeah, this stuff is really good. There's a reason I only made a half batch of the caramel syrup, because it becomes shooters later tonight if I didn't. No, that's not how you make teriyaki sauce. You just take your soy and your sugar and you mix it up. But what I do, speaking of brown sugar, is I never buy brown sugar. I take molasses and add it to white sugar. Because that's literally what brown sugar is. It's white sugar plus molasses. Technically, brown sugar minus molasses is white sugar. To answer your question, almost, I do caramelize brown sugar. There's versions of this syrup that calls for molasses, and it becomes very lightly caramelized. But I don't want to call it a hack, but it's kind of a cheat more than anything to make your caramel more safely is to use brown sugar and reduce it a little bit and then add your butter instead of taking real sugar, making real caramel and adding butter. Just because you have that deeper, richer flavor from the caramel, from the molasses, which is kind of close to caramel. I'm going to try that though, making teriyaki sauce with caramelized brown sugar. I'm all intrigued now. This stuff, now that it's cooling down, I could dip, see if I can get some light in here. I could dip apples in here and make my own candy apples or strawberries or fingers, my face, yeah. And if it gets very firm, just gently heat it up. And if it doesn't flow, you can just stir in a little bit of butter. And don't raise the heat too much. You don't want to go above like medium low. Yeah, shovel eyes, it's really, really, really good. And it's just the natural ingredients, right? Sugar, water doesn't really count, butter, and a bit of vanilla extract. Speaking of ingredients, I go between being angry and just giggling at the silliness of the recipes that I see on YouTube Shorts where it says like 2-ingredient cheesecake or something. So the first ingredient is some sort of cake mix that has 30 ingredients in it. And the other single ingredient is a list of 12 ingredients, but it's only 2 ingredients for the recipe. You hate those, right? Sometimes it goes from extreme hatred to I just laugh at it because it's ridiculous. It's just like those clickbait titles like 12 facts that will shock you about something. Number 8 will give you an aneurysm. Yeah, now I want an aneurysm, right? Okay, I'm going to have one more bite and then we are going to wrap this up. And then we'll play some too. Actually, I have a hilarious YouTube video to show, but I will end the recording first. Yeah, exactly. Like 2-ingredient pizza, your cell phone and a credit card. Because I've been talking about pushing my videos to YouTube right away, unedited, what's hit my feed is how to monetize and how to improve your SEO and how to like win the algorithm. Those videos are infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. I just saw one. You know what? I'm going to go on the rant after this. Simple ingredients, no fancy techniques, no fancy gadgets. Whatever I normally say. This is very, very simple to make. I highly recommend you do this the way I normally do, not this way, but the syrup is amazing, so make that. Be careful when you're turning sugar into caramel on your stovetop. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher handy. Do not throw water into your pot. Don't put flour onto your kitchen fires. Salt if you don't have a fire extinguisher, a fire blanket of some sort. But definitely do not pour water, especially when oil is involved. That's a horrible note to end things on. I love you guys. I'll be right back.